All right, fashionistas, this is the moment that you've been waiting for. We are going to get started on your three-dimensional fashion figure. Here's an example, and then this is the one I'm going to show you how to make. For the first lesson, all you need is copy paper and a piece of construction paper. So let's get going. So we are going to get started with our fraction figures. This activity will actually take us 3 sessions. It's a long activity, so I just want to let you know that this is the first of many times that we're going to do fraction figures. To get started for today, you need a pencil, a piece of copy paper, and a piece of white construction paper. I'm going to set that aside for now, and I'm going to set my Sharpie aside. I don't need either one of those things. So to begin with, why are we calling these fraction figures? We're calling them fraction figures because we're going to use fractions to help us create a perfectly, or as close to perfect, proportionate person as possible. Now, you know we all come in different shapes and sizes, and some of us are shorter or taller, or we have different body types, but no matter what we look like, on the inside, our bone structure usually is proportionate. So that's where the idea of proportion comes from in this instance, even though all of us look different. So I'm gonna go over how to do your fraction fashion figure. And the first thing you'll do is fold your paper in half, just like that. And then open it back up. And now we're gonna label the parts here. So we folded our paper in half. I'm gonna label this half. And then up in the corner here, I'm gonna show that that's the 0 and that's the 1 right down there on our number line. So if we're imagining a number line, this is the halfway point. The next step is to take our half and fold that half in half again. So you can think about what is half of a half. If you open it up and you count the folds, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know we've now folded this into fourths, and a half of a half is a fourth. So now we're gonna label each of these parts. This is our first fourth. This is our second fourth. And our third fourth. And then down at the bottom, it's our fourth fourth. And you might notice that 4 fourths is equal to 1, and 2 fourths is equal to 1/2. To make our fraction figure, we're actually gonna fold it one more time, and we're gonna figure out what half of a half of a half, say that 3 times fast, or half of a fourth is. Let's open it up and find out. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 folds. So we know that we've now folded this into 8ths. So half of a fourth is an 1/8. And we're gonna label each of these 1/8, 2/8. Aha, so 2/8 is equal to 1/4. That's an equivalent fraction. 3/8, 4/8. 4/8 is equal to 2 fourths, which is equal to half. So those are all equivalent. And then we have 5/8, 6/8. So that means that 6/8 and 3 fourths are equivalent. 7/8, and then down at the very bottom here, we have 8/8, which is equal to 1 as well. So now we've found all of the fractions and equivalent fractions for our paper folds. The next step for this is we're gonna fold one more time, but this time we're gonna fold a big, long vertical fold down the middle. And this is going to help us create a line of symmetry for our bodies. Of course, no one is perfectly symmetrical, so if your body that you're drawing doesn't look perfect, that's okay. All right, so right on this middle line of symmetry at the very top, right up here, you are gonna draw an oval. And it can reach all the way to the top, that's okay. This isn't our final draft, this is just our practice page. And so I've drawn what will become my head. And that should be between the 0 and the 1/8 mark right here. And you don't need to draw this line, I was just drawing it so that you could see it easier. All right, and now the next step is to draw the neck and shoulders. If you feel your neck, you'll see that it's just about as wide as your head. So our necks are more like that. And so I draw my neck just below the 1/8 line. And then I'm gonna draw my shoulders on this line as well. The shoulders are actually about the distance of 2 heads. So to measure that, you can do it two ways. You can try it with your fingers and just eyeball it. That means that you kind of measure here like that, and then check here and do two heads. If you really want to be more precise, you can use the ruler that we gave you that you'll use for some other projects. And I see that my head is a little under 2 centimeters or just about a half an inch. So it's about that half-inch mark. So to make my shoulders, I'm gonna use this ruler and I'm gonna mark right here at 1/2 inch. And then I'm gonna mark the other 1/2 inch. There's our 1 inch and there's the halfway mark. So I'm gonna put the halfway mark in the middle and then go to the end. And that should give me a more accurate way of doing my shoulders. A lot of times kids think that the shoulders end up looking really wide, but if you look in the mirror, you'll see that your shoulders really are about as wide as two heads. And if you measured that out, you'd see a head could fit here and a head could fit there. So that's our shoulders. So now that we've done our shoulders, our next step is actually going to be to draw the torso. So you're gonna jump down to the 3/8 line here. And right on this line, you're gonna actually start and you're gonna draw a little dot. You could pretend that is the person's belly button. And then from there, you're gonna go up to the 1/4 line here. So I go up usually, or you can go down either way, from the 1/4 to the 3/8, just like that. And this is her torso. And then from there, we're gonna draw her hips down to the 1/2 line. And I like to kind of go out for the hips a little bit and up for the torso like that. So there's her hips. From there, we're going to figure out her legs. And you wouldn't believe this, a lot of kids don't, but our knees are gonna go all the way down at this 3/4 line. And I just start with drawing like a little line there to show me that that's where the knees are. And when you look at this, you might think that is a really long distance from the hips to the knees. But our femur, our thigh bone, is actually the longest bone in our bodies. So we're gonna draw lines all the way down to the knees. Now we're getting down closer to the feet. And so for here, I'm gonna just continue all the way down towards the bottom. And when I draw my legs, I actually like to do them like this, and you can copy mine if you want. I like to make one leg facing out and one facing forward, and that way I can show the way the shoes look from the front and from the side. So for my foot facing out, you can just draw a line, a diagonal that goes all the way down. And for the one that's going to face forward, I draw a little upside down U, and that's where you can imagine the toes would be. Now the legs do look different from the front and the side. So I'll show you how to do the front leg first. The front facing leg, you're gonna come up to the knee, there's your ankle, and it goes in a little, right? And then we have our thighs, and you're gonna go all the way up to the halfway line. Now for this leg, the one that has the foot facing out, in this case, our knee actually would pop out a little bit like that. So I'm gonna change the knee, and then I'm gonna come down, and we have a nice calf muscle here to help us run and jog and ski and do all kinds of things that you might enjoy doing. And so that one, you kind of do a curve and then down. And you can straighten this up a little bit. Like I realized here, maybe my calf needs to come in a little more at the knee as well here. So that's where you can kind of shape your legs. So now we've got our legs and we've got our hips and our torso. And the next step is the arms. And this is kind of a funny thing. A lot of kids, when they draw arms, they kind of stop them too short. And then I think of those like T-Rex arms. You actually want to draw your line all the way down to the 1/2 point, right here, to the halfway line, and then all the way down to here. They look kind of long, but at this point, if you don't believe me that this is how long your arms are, you're really not going to believe the hands, because they look very long compared to what we often think of when we draw our pictures. So for the hands below the halfway line, you're actually gonna draw them like this. And I just do mittens. I kind of make them look like they're wearing mittens. And the reason for that is because we're gonna use watercolor, and it's really hard to do details like fingers on a watercolor. Okay, so now we've actually done as much as we're going to do for this portion of the drawing. If you want to go over any lines right now and make sure it looks just the way you want it to, make sure everything's nice and dark, because I'm going to teach you a technique to transfer your drawing from this paper right onto the construction paper that you'll use for the painting. So I'm just making sure that my lines are exactly how I want them. Sometimes I go over them a little bit. And now I'm gonna grab my construction paper and show you the next steps. So you'll take your construction paper, and I'm laying it right on top of this like that. And then you're gonna take your paper that you've folded up and that you drew your fraction figure on, and you're gonna lay it on the top of this. Now I like to leave a little bit of room on the top and on the bottom, so don't match it up exactly or you won't have room to do your painting. So you're gonna go like this, and lay it down. And if your drawing is dark enough, you should be able, just like a tattoo, and when you press that water on a paper towel on the back of your tattoo, this is essentially transferring your drawing the same way. So you just go like this, and then keep going so that you can transfer your drawing. And I think I'm done, so I've gone over the whole thing, and there she is. It's very light, but it's not so light that you can't trace over it. So I'll trace over this and draw the lines for each part of her body. You'll notice it's reversed. Now this foot and knee are facing this way instead of the other way like they were before. And then this is the forward facing foot that kind of has like a little shoe on it. And there we go. And now you have your fraction figure. So from here, I'm gonna draw my face and my hair and do all of the details. For my face, I'm gonna draw like a really quick sketch here of a line down the middle and a line right here, like a little cross in the middle of my paper. And I'll do my eyes on this line, and my nose on here, and then my mouth. And then your hair is gonna come down from the top. And sometimes kids think that that seems too long, but that's actually the very crown of your head. Like if you put your finger on the very top of your head, that's what's there. Okay, and then the ears are as tall as the length of the ears is the distance from the eyes to the nose. So you can just draw that. And then you can draw your hair. And we will paint over it so you can erase the parts that you don't necessarily like to show, like the lines that you drew. And then you can do little eyebrows right above. So there is my figure, and she's ready to paint. And we'll start that for the next activity. So you won't do that right now. That'll be our next step.